Two, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Check.
GM.
Check.
Ah, some friends.
Hi, New Yorkers, where are you? Yes,
all right.
awesome. We got to get those peeps in here. This is the EmpireDAO.
If you're in the back, I need you to come up front.
Yes.
Please report to the front.
I'm going to introduce Mike in a second, but I just want to paint the picture of March 3rd in New York City, which is not long ago. This is not even 2 weeks ago. This is like barely over a week ago. I popped into NYC. I'm a longtime New Yorker, but I've been lots of places during COVID, including Miami and Paris and New York. And I popped into New York and went to the Beeple opening, New York City. This is the kind of thing we do. And then I went to meet Lou from Cyber Mondays, a buddy of mine. And we, of course, went to see the incredible new building, which is EmpireDAO in the Lower East Side. And then, of course, we had some schnitzel and some beer. And that's the kind of New York moments that we all know and love. And that was on March 3rd. And that was Mike's preview of EmpireDAO, an incredible historic building in the center of Manhattan on the Lower East Side. He's going to tell you more about it. But Mike is Multi-Chain Mike on Twitter. I like to personally call him Multifaceted Mike. His experience ranges from bartending to teaching at NYU to startups, enterprise software, you name it. He was actually at 21st Century Fox before it became Disney. So very accomplished, amazing soul, father of two. Mike's gonna introduce himself, but I just wanted to tee it up to say this is Multifaceted Mike, Multi-Chain Mike on Twitter,
too much.
the founder of EmpireDAO.
Thank you. So I guess
Let's clap. Woo!
I'll give a quick background on myself because I think it is relevant to what's happening here. I was fortunate enough, my sister was like, you need to get out of this country, and she sent me to Australia when I was 20. I went on the one-way ticket with about $200 in my pocket and spent 6 months in Melbourne, Australia, realizing how ignorant I was of the rest of the world. And spent most of my 20s bouncing around 5 different countries and 4 different continents doing random jobs, mostly bartending, teaching English, etc. And then in 2009, I was at Filterbox, and we did social media monitoring. It was the first Techstars class out of Boulder, Colorado. And we quickly got acquired by Jive Software, which did online communities for corporations. And so I was working with 20th Century Fox, and I was teaching the executives and people. I was teaching journalists how to use Twitter, et cetera. I remember in the same week there was someone said, Netflix will never produce any good content. And then also on the news side, they were like, people won't know what's real. And I'm like, no way, man, social media, we're gonna know everything that's real. And like they were completely wrong and completely right. And then I was at BNY Mellon, America's oldest bank, the bank's bank, and I ran a show called FinTech Friday where I was trying to red pill the whole America's oldest bank on what was coming with crypto, and I would interview people. It was kind of like a late night talk show that wasn't that funny. But in the meantime, I was the head of collaboration, and so I worked with the head of real estate on making collisions and making in IRL things happen. I had a startup. I had a kid. That's not a startup.
That is a startup.
I mean, I hate it when I invented a baby. Don't do that. And so my kid was turning 1. We live in New York. Don't bring plastic shit into our house. So my wife and I created this little website where it's like anchor links. You could use Venmo, PayPal, and send them a check or give them stock or say college savings. And everybody clicked on it, loved it, and they all use Venmo. And then Christmas came around, they all started using it again, and they were like, oh, it's this living registry. I was like, oh, cool. So I ran with it, posted some ads on Facebook. 10,000 people were like, yeah, I'd download that app. Quit my job, raised $500,000, COVID hit, and the UI was wonderful, but the pipes were just awful in terms of you had to connect Plaid and Stripe and Venmo and PayPal, and every different state had a different thing. So quickly, I became a degenerate in NFTs, realized on Solana we can build them. I can give my niece a NFT when she's born, and then airdrop movie tickets, Steam credits, whatever it is for the rest of her life. NFTs kind of just fixed our whole back end. And it was like, holy, this is real. So as I was in that, there's a hacker house day in Soho. And it was about 80 of us entrepreneurs and developers. And when we got together, and it was magic. It was like, wow, we really missed this IRL. We were coming up with ideas, and some of these companies still exist today, including EmpireDAO. So we were like, who wants to do this again? And like everybody raised their hand, and we're like, well, let's make it NFT based. Let's make a DAO. And it kind of steamrolled. We raised $1 million, it committed in 24 hours to do it. And we walked the investors through our place in Soho, and they were like, you've got to go bigger. This is every single company we know wants to work here. Because like the concept of I have an NFT desk that I buy for the year, and I'm in Austin for the week, and I can use a smart contract and give it to someone else for a couple of days and rent it out, essentially. Or in high season at NFT NYC, I can rent it out for a lot more. That's an asset to people, right? People want to have that kind of NFT, and that asset, they want the workspace, but they don't want to commit 5 days to it, or 7 days to it, or 12 months. So this kind of concept, it kept steamrolling and steamrolling. And we found a space that's completely turnkey, and it's 5 stories, a beautiful building in Soho, and we're like, all right, let's go for it. Is there enough interest? And that's where the chains started getting involved. So we've got some layer 1 chains that want to put their 24/7, 365 hacker houses.
You're answering all my questions.
Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be fireside, isn't it? Yeah, okay, and I mean, I'll stop there, but like we put a preview out, and 300 and something people showed up in the cold without like a promise of a bottle of water, and the landlords are like, how the hell are you doing this? We can't, half of our real estate's empty right now, but yet you're bringing in people that, you've got 300 companies that want to stay, that want to go in your space. And it's that kind of WOGB, we own it. And I'm sorry, I'll get into a little bit. But like that DAO concept, so we're working on things where essentially we're going to stake in every company that's there. So just by working there and holding our token, you're going to also own a piece of everybody else's who works there too. So if they're like, hey, I need an intro or something, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, well, I kind of own that company too. So it's pure Web3 in the sense that we want to have it as an incubator accelerator from there. Sorry.
Okay, so wow. Mike just answered all these amazing questions, which were, what was the inspiration? What's his background? Part of the structure. I'm going to give questions to the crowd soon, so think about anything you want to ask, because I want to make sure if something's on your mind about EmpireDAO, we want to hear it from you. So I've heard a bit about the inspiration. Was there even a question around the structure, or it was just naturally, like, we're going straight down this DAO road and this physical space?
100% going DAO road. So I've been fortunate enough that two of the one of them, the Monkey DAO is a DAO in Solana, and it's proven to be it's a bunch of entrepreneurs and investors, and it's like my tribe that I'm building on, and so I participated in that and got to see that grow and be created, and then became a board member, and like without question, it was like, yeah, this is the concept where you get people working. There's incentivization. They want to pump their bag a bit, but they also are like-minded people. So creating a DAO attracted the smartest minds in New York City in co-working spaces. So there's about 25 people in our Slack that contribute, and they're all smarter than me. And it was really easy to attract them because of like what this concept was. So yeah, from the jump, it was a DAO. We're not officially a DAO. Like, we're building towards a DAO. So that's kind of where we're going ultimately.
Sometimes I meet people at South by or just different places, and some say Austin is dead, or New York is dead, or and I'm an eternal optimist, so I always kind of challenge these ideas. So my question is, Mike, is New York dead or alive?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very alive. I mean, it's been the confluence of, you kind of need that tech the finance mentality a little bit in crypto, right? And so we have Wall Street. So a lot of the people within there, they're really open-minded to this. And coming from BNY Mellon and working in digital innovation and all those, I know all those folks, and they're like, yeah, like we get this. Tech is there. It's not as strong as other places, I would say. But the magic pixie dust right now is culture. The amount of artists in every genre of music, the amount of artists in creating, working for these big behemoths in Midtown, and they're creative, and they're kind of locked in these corporate jobs. We have so much artistic energy in New York. And that confluence of those three is unlike anywhere else on the planet, I think. And so I meet a 20-something every single day going like, oh yeah, I just moved here from California. I'm like, oh, where are you working? Tech company. Where were you? Instagram. It's taboo to have worked for one of these data stealing companies that have been breaking our data for years, and they're embarrassed by it, and they're coming into New York in droves to be part of the movement.
And so that's awesome lead into the next question, which is, let's paint the picture. Like, paint the picture of this beautiful building and what you see happening inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's this 24/7, right? Like, we're not going to close our doors. You can come in anytime. Crypto doesn't sleep, right? So we want it to be open. We want it to be kind of an Algonquin house, in the 20s, where all the poets and writers met in New York. We want this to be an open spot for anybody to come, not just NFT holders. It's not going to be exclusive. We're already doing partnerships with corporations, government, and universities to kind of get their audiences in here and coming. But most importantly, we want musicians and artists to come in and experience it and go, holy shit, that's what this is? Oh, I can actually I can build this around that. And then we're working with like Audius for a music studio within there, and they're gonna sponsor these artists. So like we wanna kind of show people what's going on, but also influence government as well. So one of the L1 chains is coming out with an NYC coin, and the mayor's involved in that. So like that kind of concept of people coming in as a museum, as an understanding center, but also as a place for like-minded individuals to congregate. Another thing is, as a degenerate NFT holder, there's a lot of these meetups that I like to go to, but I drink, which is fine, but like a lot of people don't. And in the winter, there's nowhere else to go in New York. Like you can't go to the parks. And it's just not inclusive for people that don't drink, right? Like there's not a good place for that. So we also want to have that kind of a more open-minded place for people to come in and meet with their other project members and DAO members.
Let's picture it, because there's an incredible roof. So I want an example of something that might happen on the roof. And then there's an incredible first floor. It's almost like a open like library room. I mean, is that where the musicians and artists are? Like, paint the picture.
Yeah, and the events, I think they'll be less crypto focused, right? Like that's not the idea here. There should be more art focused. So we're expecting more releases, more musicians, that kind of thing. So that's the I don't want to say like the teaser to come in and go, oh wow, this is artist releases, this project here, but also while you're here, you're going to understand what that's going on. And then yeah, the rooftop's beautiful. We don't have massive plans for the rooftop yet, but I'm sure there'll be some music going on up there and activities. Yeah.
So now, since I move around a bit and I've been spending some time in beautiful Miami and Paris, where my family is EmpireDAO going to go on the road? Are you going to move? I mean, you're here at South by, actually.
Yeah.
You're on the road right now.
So,
are you going to be on the road a bit?
Yeah, so and I should back up a little bit. I mean, like what we're really building, EmpireDAO is the first customer, so we're building protocols for IRL. So we want any DAO to be able to set up in their geographic location and do the same exact thing that we're doing. So you're able to control your own currency, right? And you're able to see the inventory, see the people, you're able to communicate, you're able to have this NFT, this suite. And it's gonna cost us a lot of money to get that up and running, but we're gonna deploy that so anybody else can do exactly what we're doing. So EmpireDAO is actually the first customer of our protocol. So we're building these IRL protocols that anybody else could use. So Montreal and Denver are two that people have been contributing to the DAO so far that really wanna open up and kind of mock what we're, I don't say, you do what we're doing. So we're going to provide, they're like, hey, we have 50 people that we want in our space in Montreal. We're not going to go do all that. And so like, yeah, we'll provide you that. And that's kind of our business model, is we're going to be that overlay or protocol that provides this for all these DAOs. And then we have that treasury along the bit that we can help control them. And it's kind of like a B2B white label model, if you will.
So last question, and then we're coming to the crew here. So get ready with your questions. There's a lot of conversation about IRL, which is really interesting in this VR, AR, virtual land that many of us live in as well. And do you believe that people are going to come back to offices and come back to a home base? Or are we all going to continue to be these like virtual nomads moving around?
Virtual nomads moving around, and that's why we want it to be complete flexible. Like we're not asking you to commit, right? And so that's why the beauty of an NFT is you can seamlessly, for free, transfer on a time-based thing to someone else. So I think it's going to be continued. There is this like rundown hostel that's for sale, like right across the street, and like let's turn that into like Japanese capsules and make it a little bougie, and like it's a bunk DAO or something like that. But the idea is like you're coming to New York, you got a place to stay, to crash, but right across, if you're staying there, you have this beautiful place that you can come in and work all day and hang out. So we want to tinker nonstop, and I think that's, people want that space, right? And also like we're going to do a flex DAO, or I don't know what the name is going to be, but a gym for the members, and the trainers are going to take USDC and they'll own X amount, the DAO will own Y amount, and we're going to work on gym technology, and that might be something that everyone else on the planet could use for free, because they shouldn't have to pay all these SaaS companies so much for their software and their payment systems. But I do think so, and I think that kind of concept of like, I'm going to go in because I own part of the gym upstairs and the cater DAO that's doing the events and these other companies. Like, yeah, this is my place. I want to be here. So I'm betting on not the metaverse. I'm betting on people coming in real life.
So I think there's an EmpireDAO in New York, or there was, and if it doesn't exist anymore, I think the old neon sign would be really awesome for the building across the street. But we can take that offline. Right. Okay, questions from the crowd. Who's got a question for Mike? EmpireDAO. New Yorkers are not quiet, so I'm gonna call on someone. So questions. Yip, do you have a question? Yip from Unit. Awesome, amazing woman in the back, her DAO, and hackathon finalist at ETH Denver.
What's the boldest vision? We influence policy big time in New York and elsewhere. I mean, if New York does certain things, then the rest of the world sees it, especially in financial infrastructure. And I think if we can have them experience things. I was at Mountain DAO in Salt Lake City last month, and they made this little mountain pay, and there was a U.S. congressman there, and he bought a candy bar, and he checked out using his Solana wallet in about 10 seconds. And he was like, wow, I've learned more in that 10 seconds than I have in 4 years of you guys talking to me about crypto. How much does it cost for the vendor to use that? We're like, nothing. It just provides more liquidity for us, so we give it. He's like, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to win us over. We are afraid of this because we don't understand it. So we block it because we're afraid of it. So you need to do more stuff like this, and that's essentially why we want to red pill kind of the government and get them involved from the jump on this. And then also influence parks and maker spaces and libraries and go, wow, there's this park that's like run down. What if we cleaned it? What if we made a trash coin or something and incentivize people to clean it? But like we own the park. Since we live around there, we can put some financial incentive behind it. So tinkering with these kind of IRL stuff, we might be able to really work into the real world and help make some better maker spaces, libraries, and public goods that we all know and love, and just do a different model than let's hope the government can argue over that, and some of this can trickle down to these projects which we all know are critical for our kids and our families, and they don't, because we all know why. Like it's just budget reasons and this and that. Well, we can control our own budget. We can control our own coin. We can create our own spaces for that. And I think this I think genuinely, like, to not exaggerate, I'll try to stay humble here, but I think we can screw with the timeline in history. Like this is inevitable. This is already being built for our kids. This is going to be generations. Anybody that's like, oh, this stuff, it's not for you. It's for later on. And I think if we can do this now at EmpireDAO and kind of prove this and show people, we can mess the timeline up and make it happen a lot quicker.
Awesome, great question. Who's next? I'm going to call on you. Good. In the green and then in the gray. Kathy, I might call on you. You're new here.
So how do you envision the spread of something like this in real life? Like you're talking about New York, but how does that spread to Miami, Austin, LA? Are there going to be different chapters, sub-DAOs, or? Yeah,
all sub-DAOs across the board. So the two models that we're looking at right now, Denver is like, hey, we want to just replicate. We think EmpireDAO has a cool logo and brand and everything, and we just want to like take it and put it there. And so like that kind of franchise model, that'll be our first that we tinker with and see if that's worthy. And then like I was saying in Montreal, they're going to call it the DAP House, and it's going to be completely their own brand that they will utilize, and they're just essentially using us as a white label service. So we're going to see, it's going to be open to anybody. The more people that use it, it's better for us. It provides more liquidity to our treasury, and it's going to be completely free to them. And so, yeah, that's kind of we expect other people to go, oh, wow, I have a hot dog stand. This is a much more efficient way of running it. Let me use what they tinkered with at EmpireDAO and take it from there. So we think natural organic growth from that.
Thank you, new friend. Good question. Next.
Yeah, my question is basically why now? Like, what is it about EmpireDAO that's different? I mean, you mentioned 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
That like, there's been a lot of these ideas toyed around. I saw one that basically rug pulled in Amsterdam in 2018.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just curious, like, what's different about EmpireDAO? What are you guys doing differently, and why does the timing make sense?
Startups are like avocados. Like, there's a time, right? Like, it's a short window where that avocado is good. And we saw in Berlin and Amsterdam and some other projects in 2017 and 2019. I think we're ambitious. I think they were just a little too early. Maybe we're too early. I think we're right on time. I think last summer, the connections that people are getting in real life connections right now, this minute, the Lynx DAO is having their first ever golf tournament in real life. And people, and that hit the switch for a lot of people, because a lot of people jumped on board and went, I'm not into crypto. I never thought of any of that. But I'm a golfer. Oh, and this is my community. And like for me, I've been golfing for 10 years in New York City by myself, which it's fine. But now I suddenly have a sub channel on Linksdale of New York City, and they meet up every Wednesday night, and it's in person. So I think this concept of is just it's starting to make sense for people. So I think right now is the time to capitalize on that.
We got the 1 minute warning, which means we get one speed question in, and just one layer on to what you said. Integrity of the founder and the founding team, huge, right? How do you avoid rug pulls? Integrity of the founding team is huge. One question, quick one. Last minute.
I missed whether you're actually already open or not, and I'll be in New York in 2 weeks' time. So
Hopefully by then. The problem literally is like Wi-Fi. Like it takes a month to get Wi-Fi in New York apparently. So with a lot of like logistical, but I would say April 1st at the latest is.
what's the address?
190 Bowery.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We got that live. You heard the address, EmpireDAO. I think we have to wrap up. Mike, thank you. Super exciting. Awesome crowd. Thank you for being
Thank you,
here.
everyone.
Go
Yeah.
South by
See ya.
Southwest.
Thank you.